Hello everyone, and welcome to my second ship build video, this time for the Crimson Hymn. Here's the little overview page for it all, so you can see all the details if you want to know all the statistics and stuff I've got going. And yeah, as you might be able to tell, this is a modified version of the Rune Hymn, which is a reasonably common ship you'll see flying around, and should be able to get your hands on quite easily. I've modded it out a little bit. It's quite lightly modified, and the goal I had with this was, first and foremost, obviously make a Crimson Fleet version of this ship, because I wanted something very piratey, and what's more piratey than stealing a ship and then just changing it a bit to suit your own needs. But I also wanted to build a Class A ship that required, no skill investment to get any extra pieces onto it, and I've done that, and it's really quite good. It's probably the best Class A ship I've flown. It's real solid. I'm sure I'll make a better one at some point, but for now, I'm very happy with this. So let's go over the actual details. First up, we have the the reactor. That's what it's called. I was like, it powers it. That's a reactor. It even says it right there. A 360T Stellarator reactor. Pronunciation's going to be all over the place. I did have a comment last time talking about it, and it might have helped. We'll find out soon. But yep, a Class A engine, which is important because that means you don't need piloting. Generates 20 power apparently, which is fine for this. You can see up here that there's not a ton of bars we need to fill up. Now, onto the weapons. We start off with our Auto Electron Beam, a PB0-30, or is that a PBO? I'm not sure. But yeah, this is your pew 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 kind of one. Which, yes, is a great way to describe it. You'll notice it does equal hull and shield damage though, and has a decent fire rate. This is just the weapon you lay on constantly. Always should be shooting with this particle weapon. And I quite like particle weapons for that. They seem very versatile. Then we have the ballistic weapon, which is the KE-20 cannon, which does quite a bit of hull damage, you can see down there. About half the fire rate, but almost double the damage, so, it's technically not as good. Theoretically it would be better if I just doubled up on the particle beams, but I like having a variety of weapons, and this thing does shred through holes pretty fast. We then have our missiles, which are always quite nice, and let's see if I pronounce this right. Atlatl? It's a 270A missile launcher, and once again, I've got a pair of them. I always like to pair up my weapons, and yeah, 47 damage for both hull and shield. This ship is better at taking out hulls than shields, but is very versatile overall. Onto the actual engines this time, and these are ones you start off with in the Rune Hymn. They are SA4110 engines from Slayton Aerospace. A pair of them, they give you a lot of power. These are real solid engines, and I could not upgrade them to anything better. Plus, it's only 4 blocks of power to max out, which is madness, quite frankly. Absolute madness. Onto the shield, and we have a Deflector SG-30 shield generator, which does require 5 power in it, which is quite a bit for a Class A ship, but you get 440 shield for that, which, for a Class A ship, is pretty good. And as for the grav drive, the R2000 Alpha grav drive, it's going to take you quite far. I think grav drives aren't honestly that important, probably the least important part of the ship overall. But let's go into the proper builder itself now. Obviously the most important thing for a Crimson Fleet ship is the colour scheme. So I went with, quite a nice dark red. This is very similar to what my channel colours are. It's no surprise I decided to go for a red and black ship. And because weapons and the odd thing you can't colour in, for whatever reason, it means there's flashes of white as well. So yeah, this is super on theme with the channel branding. But what you may notice is I've got rid of a few bits from the hymn. There's normally an extra bit of cowling under here, and there's a bit of extra cowling at the back, and I think I've only got 1 porthole, whereas normally the hymn has several portholes listed all over it, and also a breaker up the front here. I basically wanted to get rid of a bunch of the extra, purely cosmetic pieces, not all of them, because it's still nice to have a ship that looks good, in order to save a bit of weight and put on some shielded cargo hold. Because yeah, if you're going to be a pirate, you need shielded cargo hold. That's par for the course there. So I threw this on the back, and ditch some other stuff, because look at how heavy that is, 48 mass. Like, ship parts are pretty heavy, but yeah, some of them are quite a bit. Oh, and seeing as I've hovered over these, the helium tanks here, these are what the Varun him started with. You'll notice it says Starship Design Rank 3 required, but the great thing is you don't need the skill if it's already in a ship that you've just commandeered. So these are just helium tanks which I left alone, and they mean I can grav jump real far. That adds up to 1100 grav jump fuel, because there's 2 of them, which is lovely. It's a similar thing with the engines, where they require Starship Design, but I don't have that, so I just left them alone, and you can still use them. You don't actually need the skill just to use the thing, you just need them to initially install. So as long as you don't delete these, you're all good. Something which I'm really loving are like weapon mounts, because it means I can keep all my weapons quite neatly together here, and the weapon mount means that I can have the cannon and the electron beam just paired up this way. And additionally, equipment plates, I want to mess around with these a lot more, see if I can put like a whole host of turrets. I want to build like a full turret ship at some point, but yeah, equipment plate means that you can put extra stuff on where otherwise you might not be able to. And speaking of that extra stuff, we've got the conduction grid, scan jammer, and comm spike. So these two, the conduction grid and the comm spike, you will get by completing like the Crimson Fleet quest line, I think no matter which way you side. The comm spike, time to lock onto enemy ships is reduced by 25%, and weapons cost 20% less to use in targeting mode. That's only going to come into play if you have targeting control systems, at least one rank of the skill in the tech tree, and are using it. So it's a bit situational, but it's got a massive 1, so like, yeah, I'm going to put that on. That's never bad to have. The conduction grid, on the other hand, which you really do need to finish the Crimson Fleet line to get, reduces EM damage by 50% and increases shield regeneration by 25%. This thing is crazy. Like, if you're big into shipbuilding in any way, do the Crimson Fleet questline, because you unlock this as a potential thing to just put on your ships. And you want it. Like, the shield regeneration alone is great, but halving EM damage is also lovely. And then the scan jammer, you don't actually need to beat any quests for this. These are just available in, like, pirate ports and whatever. Yep, a scan jammer that increases your chance of evasion during a ship scan by 10% if you're using a shielded shielded cargo module. Oh, the double A. Oh, terrible. 0 out of 10. Game's trash now. Module and carrying contraband. Yeah, so this just means that when you do fly around with contraband and you get scanned because you go into, like, neon or whatever, there's less chance of it being detected, which is nice. And once again, it does actually have a mass of 5. That's quite a bit more mass than I thought, especially seeing as, yeah, this entire engine mount is a mass of 5. That's a mass of 5. The mass never makes sense. But yeah, mostly I kept the cosmetics the same, because I wanted it to be, like, very visible as a Varun hymn, but clearly altered a little bit. The shield I decided to tuck away, because I like the idea of a shield being in a very hard-to-hit place, because it's got all this other stuff around it which you'd hit first, logically. But yeah, the shield being tucked away here is pretty nice. The cockpit I kept exactly the same, and honestly it provides most of the cargo, because you'll notice that the only cargo I have is the shielded one. And I specifically went for the lightest shielded cargo, which gives me the least storage, so there's a total of like 360 storage, which is not a lot. But this is not a character who's going to be gathering resources and doing lots of crafting and stuff. This is all just for loot and ship parts, so didn't need a ton of cargo space. For habitats, I unfortunately kept things mostly the same. I did play around a little bit with changing them, but I was finding the problem I was having was, oh, the landing bay, which is down here, is no longer connected. Because, yeah, you need the cockpit and the landing bay connected, which means you go from here, through here, down to there, into there, into there. And redoing that without changing how the ships look took me too long. And I wanted the build out sooner, so yeah, most of the habitats are pretty useless, like storeroom and engine bay give you nothing. The companionway, I think, is pretty worthless as well. The only good one is the one down here, a science lab, which gives you a research station and a chem lab, or whatever it's called in this game, the place where you craft like aid items. So a science lab is a good thing, rest of it really not too important. But yeah, I think you get the general gist of what's going on here. I'm not going to give you like a full interior tour, because the interior is nothing fancy. Like, most of this is not stuff you can go in. It is literally from there and down there. That's all you can travel, so yeah, it's not super interesting, but I will leave you with a bit of combat footage just to give you a good idea of what this ship is like when it's actually out and about. So if you enjoy, leave a like, subscribe, and look forward to the next one. As always, thanks for watching. Sarge out.
We can't jump! Surrender now!
The Freestar Collective owes you, stranger. Please acknowledge. Have it your way.